So you like pizza, you're good at making it, and now you want to share your pizza with the world. You want to go into business. Problem is, food trucks, horse boxes, they cost more than an actual mortgage on a house. I've been there, I've done it, and I'm going to show you how to start a pizza business on a budget. I'll show you where to save and where to invest. Let's get into it. So a couple of caveats to start off with. You're going to need a car or a little van big enough to carry your stuff. Simple. Not gonna lie, you're gonna need the space to transport it about. If you don't have that, then maybe you can start off with looking at a venue or a location that allows you to store your stuff there. So you can just take it there, leave it, go there, set up, pack down, put it back away, drive home. But if you wanna move about, you're gonna need an estate car or a small van. Just being honest. Next, and probably most importantly, you're gonna wanna be so confident in your pizza. You're going to want to have tested it on strangers, got some feedback, and actually scaled it. You want to test it on scale. So make 20 of them and see how you get on. So these are the things that you need to do before you go into business. You can't go into business and test it. You need to test it and go into business. Don't get me wrong, you're not going to start off perfectly. You're going to be honing that over years. Maybe it won't ever stop. You're always going to be perfecting things. But if you can do that before you go into business, why not? It's only going to make your start a lot easier. The third caveat you need to think about is registering with your food hygiene, with your local authority, and getting that legal element done. Sign up with NCAS, NCASS, NCAS. Sign up with them if you're in the UK and they'll tell you everything you need to start your business. It makes it so easy. I'm not going to go into it. I've already done a video on NCAS, so check that out. But if you're looking to start off and you're a bit uneasy about your food hygiene rating and the things that you need to tick off, check them out. It costs £35 a month, but it's so worth it in your first year. So these things are the things that you need to think about, but I'm assuming you've already done these things before thinking about going into business. So let's get on to the next step where I show you how to do it in a fraction of the cost. So what I'm going to do is draw you a diagram of your ideal first setup. Now this is a setup that I can tell you from experience will work. So you start with your gazebo. It's affordable. I use Gorilla gazebos. They're cheap, but they're really sturdy. Mine have lasted 3 years and they've been through all sorts of weather and they're still going strong. They come with weight bags. Use the weight bags. I've had gazebos fly away twice and it's not fun. The other good thing about Gorilla gazebos is you can get replacement parts. So if your canopy does get a tear, the replacement canopy is really affordable and you can just clip it over the existing frame. The frames are really strong. Gorilla gazebos, that's where you need to start. Now on your gazebo at the front, you're going to want a half wall. I would get this branded. It's the first thing the customer sees. You've got your gazebo, you're going to want a logo or some branding on there. The gazebo shop, they do a branded half wall for 100 quid. You can't go wrong for that. 100 quid, get your logo on it, and then you've got your structure. Now inside that structure, you're going to want lighting. Pizza is difficult to make in the dark, especially if you're doing evenings. You're going to want some lighting. If you can get anything LED that's bright enough, then fantastic. Next, you're going to want to think about your surfaces, your tables. I use these fold-out stainless steel tables from reducedcatering.com. Now, they're quite expensive. They're about £250 a table, but they're fold-out, they're stainless steel, they're so hygienic, and I can make pizzas directly on top. But for the budget setup, to start with, you can use any fold-out table with a tablecloth, and then just make sure that that table, the surface is good enough to make pizzas on. You can carry around an offcut of worktop. You can carry around a bit of marble if you want. I would recommend going for a stainless fold-out steel table and then maybe two other fold-out tables for your cutting and your serving and for the pizza ovens to go on. So you've got your gazebo, you've got your fold-out tables, you've got your lighting. With your fold-out tables, a top tip here is to make sure they're the right height. If you buy your tables and they're a bit too low, even by this much, your back is going to absolutely torture you by the end of the night and the next day and going forward. So if your table is a little bit too low, get some tins, get some blocks of wood, get anything you can to raise those tables up, even by that much, so you've got a straight back because honestly, you'll thank me for that. It's the worst, bending over, making pizzas for a night, and then you just can't move the next day. I don't know if that's age, could be, but table rises, trust me on that one. So we've got our structure, we've got our gazebo, we've got our little bit of branding on the front wall, we've got our tables, we've got our lighting. Now, we're gonna want our pizza ovens. This is a big one, obviously because we're making pizza. Now you've got a few options. You've got your wood-fired or you've got your gas. Yes, I'm biased because I use wood-fired. I think it's great. I love the smell of it. I think it adds a taste. However, there are pros and cons to both gas and wood. Go and do your own research. I might do a video down the line comparing them, but to be honest, I've been using wood-fired ovens and I don't have the knowledge on the gas. What I do know though, because I did have a gas oven, is they are easier to control. If you don't have a build-up of customers, if you don't have a steady flow, you can turn that gas down and your stones aren't going to overheat, so the next pizza isn't a black frisbee. With wood, if you have a rush of customers, you're going to be adding the wood on, it's going to get so hot. If those customers then end and you've got half an hour without a pizza going in there, those stones are going to get hotter and hotter and hotter, and you might have to use a sacrificial bit of dough just to cool it down a bit, but that is something that you can't control. You can't turn a wood-fired pizza down, but it does have other benefits: smell, taste. It looks great for customers as well, and these things are important. So your options are, you've got your rock boxes, your unis. You can pick them up for about £400 each, maybe even cheaper. You could go second hand if you needed to, but you need to be able to cook 2 pizzas. If you're gonna go wood fired, I started off with an oven called the Igneus Classico. Now you can get them from the pizza oven shop. There is a link below. I'm not sponsored by any of these. I've just compiled a list to show you where I'd get these things from. A few of the Amazon links are affiliate links and it helps the channel, but you don't pay any more if you click through those links. So the pizza oven shop, Igneus is a brand of pizza oven. I started off with the Igneus Classico, and you can fit 2 pizzas in there. You can either get one oven that does 2 pizzas, or you can get 2 ovens to do 1 each, and then you can control them. And it might be a bit easier starting out, giving you that bit of control. So you've got your rock boxes, you've got your unis. I'd say £350 to £400 each. That's gonna be a lot of your initial investment on those ovens, but it's probably the first or second most important thing that you can get. So you're going to have your gazebo with your structure, you're going to have your pizza ovens. Next is your utensils. As this is the ultimate guide, I'm going to go through the essential utensils. And this goes back to my list that I use every week, because I've been there, I've forgotten a peel, I've forgotten cutters. So I have a list every week where I tick off every single item. Now, there might be some stuff I've missed. If there is, help us out in the comments. Let's help each other out and get a little bit of a conversation going. If there's anything I've missed, add it in the comments. If you think it's essential, or if it's something that you couldn't start without, or it's something I've really badly missed, add it in the comments, help me out. So your pizza peel and your turning peel, you should know what they are by now. Pizza peel, turning peel. You're going to want an oven brush. An oven brush is often overlooked, but when you've been putting pizzas in for a while, you do get a little build-up of semolina or flour. You're going to want to brush that away before it starts burning. And also, if you get a hole in a pizza and it causes a massive mess, you're going to want to be able to scrape that up, brush it away, and carry on. Without that, you're going to be using peels. And if you're starting off with the cheaper peels, they're usually made of aluminium, which doesn't react to heat very well. So that's a little bit of a tip. You start off with aluminium peels, but as soon as you can, move on to steel, because it works so much better in the oven. It doesn't warp, it doesn't bend, it doesn't get little nicks in it that are going to tear your pizza. Start off with aluminium because it's cheaper, but move on to the GI metal brand and get your stainless steel peels and turning peels. But back to the pizza oven brush. You're going to want a brush to brush that stuff away. So you've got your peel, your turning peel, your oven brush. You're going to want your pizza cutters, color-coded pizza cutters. That goes along with the food hygiene stuff. You're going to want one for meat, one for veggie, one for non-dairy. I'd say 4 or 5 different colors, and keep them separate. Next, you're going to want your ingredients containers. So you can get the GN pans, which are all the standard sizes where they fit into each other and stuff. So I think you're going to want 6 containers for ingredients. So you get your cheese, your pepperoni, mushrooms, and so on. If you really want to do it on a budget, you could use Tupperware tubs. You could use any container you want, but just make sure that they're washable and you can prove to the food hygiene inspectors that you can keep them clean and washable every time. This isn't in a particular order. This is just the stuff that I've written down. Trays for your dough balls. I don't know what quantity you're gonna want, but I've put a link below for a pack of 4. And then you can figure out if you need them deeper, if you need bigger trays, but there are a few places you can get these. Look out for them secondhand because you can get some really good deals. You're gonna want a gas lighter if you're on a wood-fired oven. Most importantly, you're going to want an infrared thermometer. You're going to want to check your stone temperatures. You're going to want to see where the hot spots are. If you've got an oven big enough for a few pizzas, you can see where it's overheating, where it's not hot enough, where you're warming your oven up, you can see when it's at the right temperature. You're going to want an infrared thermometer. And then the last couple of things you need in this section, a cool box. If you can get a big cool box where you can do all of your prep at home, and then put all of your ingredients in there with some ice packs, or a top tip is to freeze 2-litre bottles of water. Just keep them frozen. Massimo, the pizza guy, I picked that tip off him, so shout out to him. So the 2-litre water bottles, keep some of them frozen and then chuck them in your cool box with all your ingredients. But you're gonna want a big cool box. Again, for your food hygiene rating, that is essential. You're going to need to prove that you can keep your ingredients at a refrigerated temperature, and that ticks the boxes. So the last bit in this section is a card reader. You're going to want people to make card payments. Yes, cash is nice, but you're going to want, if you want to grow a business, you want to be able to take card. And you need one that people can put their card into. So SumUp do a card reader for 25 quid. It's cheap, it works. It doesn't print out tickets, but it works. If you want to look at a better one, the one that I use now is a Square card reader. It prints out the order ticket as well, so you don't have to write it down. You can put your card in and it does everything really. So you've got a couple of options there. The last little thing you need is a first aid kit. You'd be surprised, accidents happen, even little cuts, but you don't want to be in the middle of nowhere looking for a plaster because you're bleeding out. So a little cheap first aid kit goes a long way. It can really help out in a tricky situation. The hidden costs. These are the things that are often overlooked and that can add up. You're gonna need a dough mixer. A lot of people overlook this fact because they do it by hand to a certain point. And then when you get an event where you need to do 50, it really does get difficult. And you can't mix a good dough by hand. You can, it takes ages and you'll get more sweat in your dough than water, but you're gonna want a proper mixer, a spiral mixer. Look on Facebook Marketplace, look for secondhand ones. We picked actually both of my mixers I got secondhand from restaurants. So look at mixers, look at the capacity you're gonna need and just make sure you get one that is over that capacity. You don't want them overflowing and stuff like that. And if you get one that's too small, you're gonna have to keep doing batches of dough, which will double your time. Look at a decent spiral mixer. I'd say you could pick one of them up for about 300 quid for a good one, but you might be able to get a deal for a better price. But yeah, you're gonna need a spiral mixer. The next hidden cost is your initial ingredients. So you've got your first event, but then you realize you're gonna have to pay for those ingredients and also a cash float. So a cash float you need for giving change to customers or bribes. That could cost, I'd say around £200 you're gonna need pizza boxes, you're gonna need napkins, you're gonna need all of your cheese, your sauce, your toppings, your cash float. There's a few things that you're gonna need to think about that a lot of people don't realize. You don't get paid for an event up front. So that's an initial cost that is often overlooked. So your food hygiene training as well. You're gonna want your level 2, ideally level 3. Again, look through NCAS and you get a good discount. If you signed up with them, you get a good discount on a few courses. You've got allergens in there, your food hygiene level 2 and 3 and all sorts. And the more you can do, the better for your food hygiene rating as well. Now, the last big thing you need is public liability insurance. You don't want anything going wrong and coming back on you. I'd say this costs about £300 for the year, but inside that insurance, you're going to want to make sure that you mention everything you do. So if you tow, if you use gas, there's a few different things that might change that insurance, but I'd say you're looking at about £300 for the year. So with this type of setup, you're going to be looking at a total cost of about £2,500, just below, just above. It's something that's affordable. You could borrow, you could save. It's not a £50,000 food truck. It's not a £20,000 horse box. £2,500 can get you off your feet. If you get the right location with the right events, you can make that back very quickly and then just move on from there, upgrading different things. The first thing you could upgrade is those steel peels. You could look into the stainless steel tables. You could upgrade your oven. You could get a small trailer. And then you just figure out what's causing you the most pinch points in your routines, in your workflow, and you upgrade. You look at your gazebo from a customer's point of view and think, what would make this look a little bit better? And then you just keep chipping away at it. You don't have to go all in, because at the end of the day, if you make great pizza, people are there for your pizza. Yes, it's going to be a lot of work. You'll put a lot of time into this if you want to do it right, because you've got your setup, you've spent your £2,500, you've got this ready to go, but the real cost is your time, the amount of prep, the amount of running about, the amount of social media, everything you're going to be doing. But if you're passionate about it, you should be enjoying that. It is an enjoyable thing to do. So make amazing pizza first, make sure you can transport it about, and then invest wisely into these different things if you want to start a pizza business on a budget. All of the links are below in the description. If you've got any questions for me, feel free to get in touch. I'm more than happy to help out. I've been there, I've done it. I've got loads of advice to give, so feel welcome to get in touch. I hope this video has helped. If it has, please like and subscribe. It would be great to have you on board going forward, and I'll see you on the next one.